Sweet. So, welcome to the Breaking Ice podcast. My name is Josh Ferguson. I have the lovely opportunity of sitting down with Bill Braden today. We're actually collaboratively working on a project right now. I don't know. Is it a public thing or do we just?
Oh yeah. No, it's with Warren Wright, who commissioned me last year to tell his story in a book.
So I am super looking forward to seeing that in its finished product. Selfishly, because a bunch of my pictures will be in it.
And I am so looking for. It's wonderful to collaborate with another photographer and somebody who's passionate about telling stories.
Well, you know, it's there's a certain kind of conversation that you can have with someone else who is in your field that it's hard to kind of relate on the same level with other folks.
I don't know about that. I like to give people credit for appreciating people who can tell a good story, and that's what I consider myself as. That's my. When I look at myself, I say, okay, you're a storyteller, a visual storyteller.
Yeah.
So using images and crafting images in a way that it's like editing a good piece of writing.
Yeah.
There's enough in it to enable you to know what's going on, but not so much that you end up going down all sorts of rabbit holes and just throwing the viewer or the reader off. So think about photography over the ages and the way iconic photographs have helped to change the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they're such a powerful means of communicating.
Yeah. The one that comes to mind in very recent history, sorry I don't have his name, but the NASA astronaut who shot the photograph of Earthrise over the moon. That exquisite blue marble out there.
What an iconic image.
And that is credited in so many ways as changing the way the world thought about the Earth as our home and something that we really need to take very, very good care of. That image was made 50 years ago.
Yeah, and it still has an impact today.
It resonates every time you see it. So, think of the conflicts and all the lousy stuff that we've done to ourselves, and how images have helped to, put that in our face and say, geez, what are we doing? We can do better. So
when you introduce yourself, do you usually say, "Hey, my name is Bill Braden. I'm a photographer," or how do you identify more or less? Because the storyteller thing is, I think, apt, but it doesn't quite resonate necessarily with an introduction, for example.
Okay, I'm a freelance writer, photographer. Been doing this in Yellowknife for the past 15 years. Mm-hmm. And it started from really. What woke me up to it was in junior high school in Yellowknife, with a gifted teacher who gave us the tools to understand photography and printing and production of the printed material. So photography has been a part of a bunch of different careers that I've had.
Okay.
Come in and out of photography.
That's been the through line here?
That's the through line.
Yeah.
So from being the printer's devil at the old News of the North back in 1967, I was 14 years old, and helping them put out the paper once a week. There's tremendous satisfaction, as a young teenager, in being involved in something that the community wanted, needed, and I was one of the people who helped do it. And if there's one moment that kind of really pushed my button, it was when there was a very dramatic fire.
Okay.
In Old Town Yellowknife, the old Stope Hotel burned down, and this was one of Yellowknife's signature places in the 1960s. The kind of bar that closed at 2 a.m. and opened at 5 a.m. It was a frontier gold mining town bar, burned down January 1st. Spectacular fire, and I took a few pictures of it, ran home. processed the film in my parents.
Yeah, the turnaround wasn't quite as quick then.
Not quite as quick, yeah. So the black and white darkroom made a very primitive print. Ran down to the newspaper office, bang, bang, bang on the door, woke everybody up. They're all hung over. And they said, "What? The old stove burned down? You got pictures?" And I had a tiny little picture printed on the front page of the paper that week.
Nice.
Photo by Bill Braden. I mean, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of the aha moment that said, I really like this.
Yeah.
And like I say, it carried on through there until I got into it, decided that this could be a full-time thing, and it has, and it's been very rewarding.
That's awesome. So you've been doing it now full-time for 15 years, but you said you had a through line throughout a lot of your other careers. So what does that quite mean in terms of how you integrated the camera?
Yeah. Well, we could go back to the News of the North days.
Sure.
And through a series of call them personnel changes, two editors got fired from News of the North, and in a fit of pique and revenge, they started up the Yellowknife.
Okay.
In 1970.
In a fit of revenge.
In 1972, I'd say, "Well, yeah, okay, we're going to show you," and it was brilliant. I was the first reporter.
Okay.
And much like that old stove photograph, the job was to cover the town. Mm-hmm. Every little thing that happened in a small town, we tried to reflect. And for the first few weeks, nobody knew whether or not this was going to have legs. I mean, these guys didn't have any money. We set up shop in an old reefer shack in the old town. Extension cords running to the neighbors. One of my jobs was to empty the honey bucket.
Oh yeah,
it was so primitive, but it caught on. It had legs, and it was so exciting. Have you read Superman comics?
Yeah, well, I've not a lot, but yeah. Some.
Okay, yeah, you're different generation. One of the characters in there, Superman was Clark Kent, who was a reporter for the Daily Planet.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
And one of the little acolytes in there was Jimmy Olsen.
Okay.
And he was the Cub reporter photographer.
Okay.
And I was the Jimmy Olsen of Yellowknife.
I see. So who was the Clark Kent?
The Clark Kent would have been these two guys. They're gone now. Jack Sigvaldason and Jack Adderley.
Okay.
Two powerful characters, but who believed passionately in what a small town needed. So they were the guys.
So in terms of your photography back then, when you were the reporter for the Yellowknife, is that what I got it right?
Yep.
I guess my question is how much effort were you putting into in terms of how you conceptualized kind of an artistic rendition of those images, or was it more just let's just capture whatever we capture?
It was nail whatever you can, but that's how I guess that's how that element of storytelling came into it. There's an event, or there's somebody who's doing something extraordinary, who is newsworthy. Well, why are they newsworthy? Mm-hmm. Hey, maybe they're an artist and they're a potter. Well, let's make a picture of them in their studio with all the mud and stuff going on. Bring in the ingredients that capture who they are and what they're doing. In an artistic way, but don't get too fancy. We don't. We're not.
But set dressing, anything like that?
No. And that's, I think, one of the skills too, is to be able to, come in and scope something out and say, okay, we're going to do it this way. Put those ingredients together. I'll go back to the idea of editing a story. Mm-hmm. What are the things visually that we need in here to tell this person's story, or illustrate the event, or the drama, or the immediacy of it? And then, bang, you nail it. Take a few different perspectives, from down low, maybe from up high, from
anything but eye level, eh?
And yeah. No. Tell another way that I like to think about it is to show things that are not what you might expect. Mm-hmm. What you might expect. let's give the viewer something that they don't expect or that they don't already know.
And well, to add on to that, in terms of one of the aspects of photography that really captures me is putting attention to details that would appear mundane, but then you can kind of use them in the image to convey something else, or or finding beauty in something, like for example, some images that I've captured of the mechanics working, and you might just be capturing some pictures of some sockets and wrenches, but there is the story with the hand reaching out and pulling it in, and there's so much there in just like everyday objects, and then using photography to kind of frame those things as a part of the story.
Yeah, or they are symbols of something else going on, like a wrench in somebody's hand. Say, oh, okay, all right, there's a mechanic or a builder or somebody like that. And one other ingredient, okay, eye contact. The eyes have to be in the picture
of the subject,
whoever the subject is, and not necessarily looking at the camera. In fact, probably not.
Depending on the context, it's better if they aren't.
That's right. I want them engaged in whatever's going on, or maybe they're talking to another person, and then the viewer becomes a kind of a witness to what's going on. You're not just sort of bang. Okay, here's Josh Ferguson, photographer, podcaster. I want him to seem to be, or not just seem to be, but actually doing something that engages him with what's important to him, and not just making a picture, looking at the camera, and smiling.
For sure, yeah. And often I find those images, if you are looking at the camera, I kind of don't want them to smile. Like, I prefer a genuine look as opposed to like a staged smile. It's like, look in the camera and think about like the accomplishments that you've had over your career, and just let that wash across your face. Yeah. And then take that picture as opposed to the smile.
A good part of my work in that, as I say, the corporate industrial client, who's that's where typically I make my living, or try to make my living.
It's also a cool place to kind of see the out of the ordinary.
Okay, so what's been out of the ordinary for me? Is that where we're going?
Sure. Okay. Or just like, I don't know, you had some pictures on your thing of industrial plants and and whatnot, but those aren't places that people typically get to photograph.
No, not necessarily. For instance, the diamond rush, which I've been in there from like the get-go. As a reporter, a contributor, a part of telling that story. To be able to get into the process plants at the big mines here, astonishing places that very few people really get a chance to see and go into, and see the scale and the scope and the smell and the noise, the vibration. They're almost sensuous places because all of your senses are being hit at the same time. How do you communicate that?
Yeah.
Rare and exotic places. One mine asked me to go into what they call the Red Room, which is it's a double security place where this is where the diamonds were actually you see the diamond,
product.
You see the diamonds coming out of this enormous 3 times the size of an airport hangar, and then it's a small room. And at one end, there's a little chute, and every once in a while you hear this tink, tink, tink.
That's bizarre.
Tink, tink. And it's the diamonds rolling out into an encased enclosure. No human hand touches the diamonds, ever, ever, ever. But they're all sorted by people wearing in a glass case, but you put your hands in a glove, and this is how the diamonds are roughly
like you're handling radioactive material or something.
Yeah. And then on the way out of this place, you strip down to your underwear, and
totally
there is levels of security that just unbelievable. This is the way the diamond industry
Did they check
works.
In behind your lens? Did they open up your cameras?
No, I didn't have to do that. But that's all done with screening on the way out. So make no mistake, it's a very, very secure, sensitive business. So having access to those kind of things, Pangnirtung on Baffin Island. One adventure I remember, this was on an assignment for the Department of Health there, and they were the situation was an Inuit elder, teaching young people, teaching youth some skills on the land. So we were all in an igloo, and the traditional Inuit garb, and the elder was he was cooking seal meat over a kudluk, the traditional stone fire, and 35 below, even in the igloo, and I just couldn't believe that my camera still kept functioning, and I got this, the light. You ever been in a snow house?
Yeah,
an igloo or tent.
I've been in Quincy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
A tent, like an ordinary white canvas tent will
Sure.
give you the same glow of light. And all these faces,
It's such perfect lighting. It's like even.
it's so sweet. And everybody's face is very intent on this tiny little flame in the kudluk, and the elder poking away at it with a caribou bone or something. How many people these days get to see and experience that kind of thing? So this is what pushes my button, where I get the reward out of being able to see and experience these kind of things. And then, if there's one final sort of sweet spot, it's to see those pictures well used.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, and I think in that same kind of thing ripples through a lot of the jobs that we have. We might be a small cog in a big wheel. Maybe a government kind of office, and maybe you're doing really exciting stuff like writing policy.
Riveting.
Holy mackerel! yeah, right. But at some point, that work, as mundane and grinding it out as it might seem, will hopefully end up in true policy, in government action, or if you're working for a corporation, corporate policy. And you can see the fruits of your labor making a difference in people's lives. So, okay, where was I going with that?
We were just talking about seeing the product of what you've captured actually utilized. And so often it's one or two images out of hundreds, maybe.
And if, you make a good point, because if all it takes is one or two images to tell the story, get the message across, then, we've done our job as visual storytellers, visual communicators. Yeah. So to see, like I say, to see those pictures well used, by a good layout artist and a good editor, say, oh, okay, I was part of that.
And so where do most of your images end up now? Are they mostly printed, and because where are they used in this industrial?
Yeah, well, on the corporate side, it's their corporations are hungry for content that tells their story. Yeah, in a number of different ways. They have a website platform. Mm-hmm. They'll have news releases. They'll have social media.
Well, and it's useful to have images for whatever situation they might find themselves in.
Yeah. Or different publications or reporters will want an image of such and such a thing, and if they're if they're on their game, they will keep an archive of those good kind of pictures and have them readily available. It's kind of disappointing sometimes to work for a client who, I go in and do my job. I give them a good gallery of pictures, and they don't get used. Yeah, they just, somebody has either forgotten about them, or doesn't have the channels to plug them in. Yeah, and that's kind of the disappointing side of it when you say.
I find that people sometimes overthink what the image needs to be. Like in certain situations, for example, the book you're working on, you have a concept of what you want the cover to be. Yeah. But in a lot of times when you're using images, you don't necessarily need the hero shot for telling the story. And oftentimes it's maybe something more obscure, one-off, that tells the story better than, the CEO or whatever.
Sure. And that's where, we talked about collaboration a little while ago, and taking different concepts and different ideas and pitching them around with the client. Or, for instance, like you and I, we're kind of in the same game, and saying, oh, well, have you thought about something like this?
Totally.
And, oh, yeah, great. So no different from any other kind of team that gets together. We're all focused on the same thing. We beat each other up a little bit, figuratively speaking, and we come up with usually, in fact, almost always, collaboration gets you a better result.
Oh, absolutely. You have more talent stacks working towards the same kind of thing, right? But what I was kind of getting at is, like, sometimes I feel like a client might lack the courage to use the image that would impact the most.
Okay, yeah, they're playing it safe.
Yeah, playing it safe. Like, geez, I don't really have a good example, but it's like, oh, we just want an image of, like, our building or something. And it's like, yeah, but, like, you're a restaurant, and, like, maybe an image of the chef cooking is going to be so much better. I'm not sure. Oh, but the kitchen's it's not as clean as I want it to be or something. And
okay. Well, there again, when if you listen to the client or the subject, and you I'll go back to the word editing. Sure. You construct the image in a way that's not going to offend them, or maybe hurt their brand. Or
no,
something
absolutely.
Like that.
I actually find that I think that sometimes people worry too much about how do I put this? Sometimes clients will be too conservative in terms of they know their product best. They know that whatever that is on the wall shouldn't be there, but it's such an obscure detail that no one from the public would ever notice that thing.
That's right. Yeah. That's it. Well, okay, as long as you know about it, you take the damn picture down.
Yeah.
Or you move somebody's head in front of it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, we can work around this.
It goes away. Yeah. And then you've heard this too from clients. Well, you can fix that in Photoshop, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like kind of.
Well,
depends.
No.
It's even worse when they ask you to fix it, but it's a video. Oh, you can fix that. It's like, geez. Like, yeah, it's going to cost $200,000 to do that. But because I need to hire a team of CG artists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No. We can't fix things in Photoshop.
Yeah.
At least I can't. Yeah, you're right. You can always hire talent to
but
to do
at what cost?
At what cost and time and everything else. So
that's one thing I wanted to ask you is, you got your start with photography using film, and then obviously there's been a massive, transformation to digital. Was that a hard adjustment? Like, what was that? What was your experience there? Because I only know digital. Like, if you put me in a film camera, I would be a complete beginner.
No, you wouldn't be, because you understand the principles of
but I have to buy different film at different ISOs. Like, that's outrageous. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
I understand how to compose and things like that, but I imagine that it would take me at least a few months to get my head around. I would be way more careful with each picture, I imagine.
Yeah, you're darn right. Yeah. With if you're shooting color print film, it's $1 a shot.
Yeah,
$1 a shot.
Well, I would have wasted $5,000 the other day just on.
Yeah. Poof, gone.
Yeah, exactly.
So the digital age has given us, and this goes across the gamut from professionals right down to the people who use nothing but their phone.
Sure.
To take a picture. Your pixels are free.
Yeah.
They're free.
Yeah.
And you can do so many amazing things with them. My own transition, up until 2007, I just shot film.
Yeah.
I had the full black and white darkroom at home. I had a lovely little Leica M4. I had a Rolleiflex twin lens reflex. Babbling here. Sorry.
Well, I just don't know what it means.
You don't know what it means.
But you had the stuff, right?
I had good professional gear. I knew how to use it. I knew photography. I knew how to work with people.
Yeah.
So
that's what translates.
yeah,
Right? That's the important
oh,
thing.
yeah. So I was able to make good pictures, but it was extraordinarily time consuming. And then the last job I had before engaging this in this career was as an MLA. I was an MLA in the NWT legislature for 2 terms.
Okay.
Yeah, I served the Yellowknife riding, and that was a very rewarding experience in many ways. In other ways, sometimes I just wanted to go home and pull a blanket over my head.
Yeah, I imagine.
It was so frustrating. So at the end of my second term, I decided not to run again. And then, well, what am I going to do? And photography had always been a passion and something that I enjoyed. I was reasonably good at it, but I knew nothing about digital. Mm-hmm. I had just sort of shut that off. Said, no, I don't have the time or the inclination to pick up all this new technology. So what am I going to do about it? I'm going to go to school. Mm-hmm. And I did so to Van Arts, Vancouver Institute of Media Arts. They had a lovely 1-year program that brought in professional photographers in a number of different venues. Wedding photography, which was, at least in that school, that was the way you made big money.
Yeah.
And maybe in a city like Vancouver,
it's still common to this day.
Yeah.
It's not low hanging fruit, but it's always in demand.
Yeah. And there's usually reasonably good money in it. Mm-hmm. But there was the journalistic photographer. There was the food photographer.
Yeah.
There was the architecture photographer.
These are the experts that they brought in.
Yeah, So they were working professionals who were able to teach and communicate what was required. And this was all in digital. So, I bought a digital camera 2 weeks before school started, and just had an awful time. It was so frustrating. It was a great school, and the class I was with, there were about 20 people in it, and most of them were young women under 24.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty jumpy place. I enjoyed it very much. But I did, through the patience of the instructors and the other students, I learned from them too. I picked up enough of the craft of not so much handling the camera. That didn't change very much at all, no. Josh. But it was on the computer side that I was way over my head. But learned enough that I could teach myself more. And that was the transition. It was not an easy one for me. I was in my mid-50s.
Yeah, you probably had an advantage on the camera handling side.
Big time. And working with people.
Yeah.
That's
what I find that young advantage. People have the hardest time with is the client relations or whatnot.
Yeah. So I brought a lot to the table that way. Mm-hmm. I just needed the technical skill to get through it. And I've amazed myself that even in the 15 years that I've been in this now, the technology has evolved so much.
Oh my God!
It's breathtaking. It's overwhelming, and I'll be honest with you, it is. There were days when I thought I can't handle this anymore. It's just I'm so frustrated with what goes on that I say. I'm done with this, but somehow I got through it.
And you keep finding the right projects, and that keeps your interest in.
Yeah. And then once in a while, I don't know how difficult it is for you, but reaching out and asking for help, it's not such a big deal.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are really they're very willing to help.
Totally.
So if there's something in that, it's when you hit a wall. Admit it, and then go out and find somebody to help you through it.
So how often will you use online resources? Like, do you ever just YouTube your problem?
No.
You should try that.
Okay, all right.
Because seriously, basically anything you could almost possibly run into, someone's made a video about how to do it or fix it.
Yeah, or there's 10 versions of how to do something.
And the more time you spend on the platforms, the more time you'll know and be able to recognize who the right people are to kind of go to. But
well, I shouldn't say I don't use a YouTube, but all right, you go to Dr. Google,
Totally.
throw a question in there, and don't lose hope. Be diligent.
It's
and,
pretty surprising. Well,
and
see,
somewhere along the line, it'll come.
my character arc, photography arc is a little different. I learned Photoshop when I was young, before I really ever handled a camera. And my mom taught me how to, we were making posters or whatnot, and kind of manipulating images and learning how Adobe worked. And she taught me, and she was like, "You're gonna learn this," and I was like, "Why?" And she's like, "It'll be useful." And I was like, "Okay, well, whatever." And I found it fun, but never suspected that it would be a foundation for a future career.
There you go. Way to go, Mom.
Exactly. Yeah. Way to go, Mom. And then come the pandemic, I was like on the people side. I was directing and leading and working in summer camps and really people-centric, leadership, growth-oriented kind of thing in terms of working with kids. And then there was a lot of storytelling in that job, verbal storytelling. And then kind of there was feedback, and everything had to do with framing and how you spoke to people and things like that. And to make, you want to give someone feedback and help them grow. You don't want to offend them. You want to tell them what they did wrong in the most positive way possible. Right. So that was like my background.
Okay.
And then came the pandemic, and I had a background with photography. I had a camera in university and whatnot, but I didn't go to school for photography at all. It was all self-taught. And I think I had an eye. Both my parents are artists, so I have a little bit of an advantage there in terms of visualness.
Sure.
And then my friend was running a production company in Toronto, and he suggested that I do some work with him. And he knew that I had some technical skill on the computer side, so I was doing some animating, and he just suggested that I download Adobe Premiere, which is the video editing software, and give it a go. So I did that, and the way I say it is I kind of speak Adobe, right? So like translating to that software, I already understood how they thought, where things would be in the programs and things like that. So it wasn't that difficult to jump over to that side.
All right.
And then it was like, well, I should learn how to shoot properly, and do all that. So I guess my introduction was much more from the other side, like through computers to photography.
Wow.
But then if you kind of take my history of storytelling and interacting with individuals, they kind of meet in with the camera, like the technical computer side with the personal side, and then you meet with the camera and the lens to capture those things and do the visual storytelling. So again, one difference between your career and my career is now I'm kind of focused on video, and I do photography too. So, but that's like a whole other animal. Like it's such a sprawling thing.
And from from the client's point of view, they very often expect or anticipate, or they want both.
Yeah, but they also want both from the same person, which is not possible.
You're right. Yeah, and I have not gone into video. I won't. I shouldn't say I won't, but the technology is very, very different. You think, oh, it's just computers. No.
Yeah.
But more significant, I think, is the thought process that goes into.
Yeah.
All right, I can go into virtually any situation, and in 5 minutes, I've got something sorted, and I can nail it with not too much fuss and bother.
Yeah.
Video.
Okay. It's deep.
Now we're lighting, framing, blocking out sound.
Yeah, sound is huge.
A whole other part of the technology. I'm
about 50%. Like if you have a video with bad sound, no one wants to watch it.
Yeah, right. Or listen to it.
Or listen to it.
Yeah. But I'm of an age now. I'll be 70 in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound ageist, but it's a lot for someone of my generation. Coming into this so late in the game,
but you have a niche. There's not a need for you to do that.
No, and you mentioned something earlier that's really important. That when I'm up against a wall, or I don't know what I'm doing, or the client's asking for something that I can't deliver, then I find somebody who can.
Sure.
And I do have some people that I work with who are this is what they do.
Yeah.
And I'll do what I do. I'm the kind of the producer, if you will, and that I shouldn't say I haven't done video because I've worked with the incredible talent in Yellowknife with Audie Williams. From Cabin Radio, who is a trained BBC journalist, video and broadcast journalist. So we've done 2 corporate videos.
Nice.
I've produced them. So my job then is the client relations. Let's pin the message down. I line up the interviews, the shoots, do all that kind of logistic works. Ollie comes in and does the technical, the video stuff. But then his brilliance is in the storytelling.
Yeah.
He threads these all these different layers together in a way that tells the client's story in a way that they want. So that's probably as far as I'm going to get.
Well, I was going to say, if for whatever reason you come across someone that overlaps with my skill set, by all means, use me as a resource, and likewise, I'll keep you in mind.
Yeah. Okay.
Because honestly, up here working, I'm in a silo in Norman Wells. Like, there's so few people.
Yeah, and even Yellowknife has my home. There's the skill levels are deeper.
Yeah. Well, there's just more people.
Yeah, there's more people, but not necessarily more capacity.
Sure.
Or the time or the ability to do things when and as they're needed.
Yeah.
So it can still be so the video projects that we worked on were typically 3 to 6 or 7 months
to do.
To finalize, because
how long were the videos themselves?
8 to 10 minutes.
Yeah,
they were fairly long. They weren't just a sort of an info commercial or
it depends on what you're doing, right?
Yeah, they wanted to go into a fair amount of depth in some areas, and we delivered. Yeah.
Well, I have tons of people ask me, they're like, "Oh, how much for a 30-second video?" It's like, well, how many locations are we shooting? Is it 15 locations? Because we can do that in 30 seconds, but that's going to be thousands of dollars more than one location.
That's right. Yeah. So per minute, I don't know. What's your gauge?
Yeah, exactly.
If it's not terribly sophisticated, a video, $1,000 a minute.
Sure, yeah.
So, you want a ballpark, okay, and then we can build or chop.
One thing my mentor taught me when I was kind of getting into it was, for every minute of final video, you want to shoot an hour.
Yeah,
and then you can just skim the cream off the top of of everything you capture.
Wow.
And then if everything is just the cream, the video is spectacular. Because then, and one of the other, I guess this is like a more cinematic perspective, but the goal is that any frame that you pause the video on, you want the composure to be immaculate. Now, obviously, that's a very difficult thing to do, but it's something to aim for.
Yeah.
And yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. And the more you do it, the more you're able, I think, to say, nah, we don't need to go down that direction. Let's, plan the old line, plan the work.
Yeah.
And work the plan.
Yeah.
And try not to get sidelined into, this would be a different way to do it. No.
Yeah.
Let's work the plan first, and if we got time and energy left over, then we can
do the fancy stuff.
Play around with something else.
So what are your favorite kind of images to capture? What are you drawn towards the most?
Oh, the work that I really, really enjoy is when in the mining exploration business, getting out into the field with a drilling crew or an exploration crew, and looking.
Okay.
So you're it's greenfield work or maybe brownfield. Very, very little development. You're not talking about bulldozers and drills and big complex things going on. It's that element of finding, hunting,
yeah,
seeking, that excites me. Because you're there, you're there hopefully at the beginning of something.
Yeah.
And I did have kind of that experience with the rare earth mining company called Cheetah Resources, Vital Metals, which unfortunately has sort of gone into a pause mode now. But there was a couple of years as this project was ramping up and getting going. It was so exciting. Because here was something new and wonderful and exciting for us and for Canada. The critical minerals field, and we were on the cusp of it. We were our little project was the sort of the poster boy for Canada of leading this edge. And like I said, unfortunately, it's gone down a different path, and it's paused right now. But once that was going, and this little team came together, and we were all so passionate about what was going on, and I was able to share in that. That's what gives me perhaps the greatest reward. The best client is the one that's taking big risks out there in the field, and they've asked me to
document,
to tell that. Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah.
So then, was that used like? I guess you were just kind of doing coverage, just kind of what happened, right? Or was there a specific images they were looking for, or were they just looking for kind of blanket documentation?
Well, it was okay. It was summer season only, and really we're talking about not much more than excavating an open pit, a small open pit.
Yeah.
But it was dramatic because it was going on, from the spring to the summer to the fall. And there was one beautiful night. And of course, the drills and things, they're running 24 hours.
Yeah, they have two crews.
The sorting and things, yeah.
Yeah.
Short season, so they had to. And this exquisite night in early September, and the aurora was out, and the flood-lit pit was there with the diggers and the trucks and the drills. And those were extraordinarily powerful pictures because they told a story of, the beginning of something extraordinary, but in the context of Canada's Arctic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's so much awareness now and fascination with the aurora globally that these pictures were used all over the world. Mining magazines, journals.
On top of that, you have the contrast of like the utterly human, and then the ethereal.
There's the aurora.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So those kind of experiences will always be with me. And they still resonate. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So do you have any projects on the horizon that you have leads or something that you're excited about? I know you're enveloped in the Northright project right now, which is, I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, it is. And there's many layers to that. Aviation, but there's a special foundation for that right here in Norman Wells, because this was through the discovery and the development of the Norman Wells oil field that brought the first airplanes into northern Canada in 1920.
There's a through line there in the work.
Yeah, exactly. Imperial Oil brought something. Okay, I shouldn't. I can't remember the name of the plane.
The name of the plane. Warren would know.
Yeah, Warren would know. So there's a hook there.
I know the image you're talking about.
Yeah. So from that, the story is about the evolution of aviation in not only this region, but across the north. The story of the airline itself, and what's especially I think rich about it is that it's family owned, and the family has been here now going into 3 generations. So it has the Wright family has a lot of fans, I think, and deservedly so. We want the book to also explore the communities that Northright serve. There's 8 communities that the airline serves, from as far south as Yellowknife to as far north as Klavik. So let's profile those communities and talk a bit about them. Let's talk about the markets. And Northright Aviation has an enormous and well-deserved reputation among the people seeking extreme adventure in the canoeing and the river travel field, and among the outfitters, the
hunting outfitters,
the hunters.
Yeah.
So those are very specific.
I feel like Northright's iconic in those spaces.
Yeah, and this is where we want the book to also to serve as a tourism asset, a tourism development asset that can show, we've got this astonishing country here, and with the help of your pictures, we're going to be able to tell that story in a book that's focused, directed at the people who want that kind of thing. And of course, we'll talk about the airline itself today. What's the fleet? What's the capacity? The people who help make it happen. So that's our vision of this book. We're going to have it. We've just discovered what our deadline is. It's early November. So,
okay.
Yep. So we're going to have it launched in about that time, and
cool.
More to come on how that's going to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Oh, I was just going to ask you, when can we expect it?
No, I'm not going to go any further. Got to keep something in the background.
That's awesome.
So that's what brings me here. Talk about other projects. I have done other books. 6 other ones that I've been involved with, either in production or in assisting with them. One that I've published myself. All the others were contractor kind of situations. Somebody else published them. But I did publish my own book about the Aurora around Yellowknife. I published that one late in 2017, and it sold out.
Oh, awesome!
3,000 copies. But it was running.
What an accomplishment! That's really cool.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, it was running. Take COVID out of that, and it was pushing 700 or 800 copies a year.
Wow.
Well, it's a big tourism market. That's why I did it.
Totally.
I thought, this market needs something that talks about the experience in Yellowknife.
Yeah.
There's lots of books out there that talk about the Aurora all around, but this has a very specific field. So anyway, it sold out. I'm revising and reprinting that.
I was going to say, is there more to come? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
And even in that 6 or 7 years, the story has evolved. The science and technology. Yeah.
So would you say that the venue of storytelling through photography, obviously the combination of the two is really the best, but how much does writing capture you? Does that really?
Well, yeah. That is very much they're linked.
Yeah,
and,
inextricably almost.
Yeah, and I have through early reporting for the little newspapers here. I've been a frequent contributor to Up Here magazine, Up Here Business magazine, and others that have come and gone in the North. So where I bring perhaps more to the table than a lot of other contributors is that I can take a very effective picture and I can do up a reasonably well-crafted story that with some judicious editing is going to be even better. But I can capture in words the detail, and then it's supported by a couple of good strong pictures. So that's a they used to call
it's a deadly combo
in the trade. They call it a two-way man.
Yeah,
you can do both, and that's how reporters of my vintage and earlier, that's how they were raised. You should be able to do both. Yeah.
Have you paid attention at all to the conversations around ethics surrounding generative AI and how that's affecting images? I'm just curious about your take on that, because I feel like even like my kind of approach versus your approach, I use those Photoshop tools and the manipulation tools to kind of craft it on the back end a little bit more than I'd say you do. But now there's the whole conversation is like, well, what is an image? What isn't an image? Does it reflect truth? Does it reflect reality? It's a really complicated place to go.
That's deadly now, when you can just with a few words tell a keyboard, and then in a matter of a few seconds, it'll give you an image that maybe more or less reflects what you thought it could be or should be. That's astonishing and terrifying. Is it like any other kind of generation changing tool?
Yeah.
How do you use this thing? How do you use it? And does it need policing? Like we thought the internet and the abuses that have raged through the internet, how do we curb this or control it? So you got laws and some modicum of policing and monitoring that go on. But the AI stuff, to answer your question in a word, no, I have not gone there. In one sense, I relate it to my fear of new technology. Do I want to try and absorb something else on top of what I already know how to do?
Yeah.
So I have avoided it absolutely, and I should climb out from under the rock. Jeez, Bill, and at least give it a try, or with help from people like you who've used it and you're comfortable with it, to say, well, okay, how could I use this?
Well, I think there's certain with any technology, but more specifically this technology, there are certain ways in which you can use it morally and effectively, but then other ways where you can use it to completely manipulate the image, like in a malicious way, almost like in an intentional way.
Sure.
If you're changing the storytelling drastically through the use of these tools.
Oh, okay. Well, now you're talking about what's the word? False news or
so there's a couple things I wanted to
propaganda.
Sure. There's a couple interesting approaches, because now there's the whole thing. It's like, okay, well, how do we prove that something is real? So there's new cameras that have these aren't like, the technology isn't new, but what they do is they imprint the image when you take it with a stamp that indicates that it is in camera real. And you can take that through the series, but if you manipulate it too much, you lose the approval. Now, only certain cameras can put this. These are new cameras, right? But only certain cameras can imprint that, taken in real life or whatever. I don't exactly remember the title of it, but that's an approach. So if you then alter it with AI or any kind of tool, you lose the certificate of authenticity.
But it's still out there. And then who can pick it up and use it?
Well,
knowing or not that it's that it's false, that it's a lie.
The intended use being reporters would use these cameras. It's now becoming more standard for reporters on big news, global stories or whatnot to use these specific cameras, so that when they do get all the way to publishing, you can still verify that it's it's like an image that has been really taken.
So there's a trustworthy venue that is using that.
There's a bunch of companies that are, committing to this kind of thing. And then there might even be some use of the blockchain. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, which is another method of indicating that this image is real. But that's kind of cool. I think that's a really interesting approach.
Interesting. Yeah. I guess I think more of it in terms of the writing and the information that's applied. So I could dial up a story and, dial up a question, write me a 2,000-word essay about Northrate Air. Well, what's going to come through?
It's not real. And it won't be accurate. There's no way.
No way. Yeah. Can it be a useful tool to help me, at least build a foundation for a story? Maybe it'll find a few things I didn't know.
Sure.
That I can fact check and verify. Okay, good. But I guess I'm much more comfortable being old school and doing interviews and transcribing and
and there's a lot of conversation online right now is like, is every photographer out of work? And I think the long answer is no. It cannot do what you're doing. and what you're doing is so valuable in terms of the capturing of the story in its entirety, holistically. How does this, and you can't do that without meeting the people and going to the places.
Yeah, and conversely, flip it over and try and keep the audience in mind.
Yeah.
Who is this for?
Totally.
What is their channel? Try and deliver something that really means something to them, and it's not just a some mindless analog or what's the word, the when something goes around and finds something instantly.
Oh, that's not coming to mind.
yeah, right. Algorithm.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Not some mindless algorithm that's
Yeah.
just following a trail. No. That's I couldn't do that. Yeah.
Well, where can people find you? Folks want to, use your services, have a project in mind for you. They're like, you know what? Bill Braden, old school Bill Braden.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He's the guy for this.
That old fossil. Yeah, I've heard of him before. I have I do have a website.
Yeah.
But it's terribly out of date, and one of those sort of processes that it can wait and wait and wait and wait. So it's Bill Braden Photo, PHOTO.
But there's contact information on there as well.
You betcha.
Yeah.
Dial me up, Google me up. If politics is your bent, go to the Legislative Assembly website.
There you go.
You'll find something else about me. But I have I like to think a pretty nice work-life balance. My wife Val and I have two daughters. Carmen, who is a composer and a musical agitator.
Cool.
in Yellowknife.
What a title.
Yeah. And our eldest daughter Ray works at the Prince of Wales Heritage Centre. And she also has an artistic background. She has a fine art degree in printmaking, but she is the manager of displays and exhibits.
Okay.
At the museum. So it's a richly talented family that I have.
No kidding.
And my younger brother Pat, of course, is renowned as a musician, a bass player for decades. And we all live in Yellowknife, which is just fantastic. My daughters each have 2 kids, so I got 4 grandchildren under the age of 6. And that's a whole other layer of life, which we're blessed to have.
I'm one step, in it. I got a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old or a 3-year-old.
All right. So yeah, you'll catch up. It's worth it. Okay, it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I've been in the Sawtooth for 3 years now, and am loving it. And I think that the north of Canada has so much to offer young people to come in and take advantage of in terms of opportunities.
It is a remarkable place to raise a family. I was raised here. Yellowknife has been my home it'll be 60 years.
Wow.
In August. Great good fortune to have come up at that time, 1964. It was just a nice, sleepy little frontier gold mining town. And then in 67, we were declared the capital of the NWT, and the world just opened up. So we had fantastic schools, gifted teachers, still do, I believe. One magical incentive that everybody should look at if they're raising a family is to stay here, stay with it, because the Student Financial Assistance Program is one of the most generous in Canada.
Okay.
And that helped me go to photography school.
There you go.
Because I was a student here in Yellowknife from grade 5 to 12. So I had the equivalent of 8 semesters of support. I only used 4 of them. It's a lifetime entitlement.
Cool.
Yeah. So I still have 4 semesters that I could go to school and get tremendous support for if I wanted to. So, the opportunities, like you say, that that young people have to be a big fish in a small pond, if you want to be, they're here. They're just, it's overwhelming, really. What people can find and what people can do and achieve here in the North.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great place to end, and really appreciate you sitting down with me today. And it was lovely to chat, but also I look forward to continuing our work together and
me too,
and see where it all goes.
Okay, pal.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for the chance.
Take care.
Bye.